The stage lights blazed down, brighter than anything 11-year-old Ansley Burns had ever seen. She stood at the center of America's Got Talent, clutching the microphone so tightly her knuckles turned pale. Her voice trembled as she introduced herself, her sweet southern accent drawing warm smiles from the audience. In that moment, Ansley wasn't just a little girl from Ansley, South Carolina, she was a dreamer standing before the toughest judges in the world. Her eyes darted nervously toward Simon Cowell, the man known for his sharp words and unforgiving honesty. The crowd cheered to encourage her, but inside, Ansley's heart pounded like a drum. Could her voice really fill this stage? Could a girl so small carry such a big dream? She took a deep breath, remembering the countless times she had sung in her bedroom mirror, imagining this very moment. With a shaky smile, she lifted the microphone closer. No matter the fear, she had promised herself one thing: she would sing with everything she had. The music swelled through the speakers, and Ansley's small frame seemed to grow taller with courage. She opened her mouth, and a clear, sweet note floated across the auditorium. The audience leaned forward, surprised by the power hidden in her young voice. For a moment, the nerves melted away, replaced by the pure joy of doing what she loved most, singing. But as the song moved forward, something felt wrong. The background track thundered too loudly, nearly drowning her out. Ansley pushed harder, straining her voice to rise above the music, but it was impossible. She could feel her confidence slipping, like sand between her fingers. Judges exchanged glances. The audience began shifting uneasily in their seats. Ansley's eyes flickered toward Simon, searching for reassurance, but instead she saw his hand slowly rise. The music screeched to a halt. The silence that followed felt like forever. Ansley froze, her heart sinking. Was this it? Was her dream about to end before it even had a chance to begin? The entire auditorium seemed to hold its breath as Simon Cowell raised his hand. The music cut out abruptly, leaving Ansley standing in the deafening silence. Her eyes widened, and for a moment, she forgot how to breathe. Simon leaned forward, his voice calm but firm. "Ansley, stop." The words echoed in her chest like thunder. The audience gasped, their cheers fading into whispers. Tears pricked at the corners of her eyes, but she fought them back. At just 11 years old, the weight of the world pressed down on her tiny shoulders. Every dream she'd carried to this stage, the late nights of practice, the endless hope, suddenly felt fragile, as if they could shatter with one wrong word. She glanced at the judges' table, her lips trembling, afraid that Simon's decision had sealed her fate. For a brief, terrifying moment, the little girl from South Carolina looked like she might run off stage. But then Simon leaned back, his tone softer now. "This isn't working. But I think you can do better." Ansley's hands shook as she clutched the microphone, her heart pounding so loud she thought everyone could hear it. Simon's words, "I think you can do better," lingered in the air like a challenge. The crowd was silent, waiting to see what this little girl would do next. Simon leaned forward again, his expression softer than before. "Why don't you try it without the track? Just you. Let us hear your voice." Ansley swallowed hard. No music? No safety net? For a second, fear almost won. But then she remembered the nights she had stood in her room, singing into a hairbrush, no music at all, just her voice, raw and real. She took a shaky breath, closed her eyes, and began to sing. This time, there was no battle with the instruments, no drowning sound. Just Ansley. Her voice rang out pure, fragile yet strong, each note filled with emotion. The audience sat frozen, captivated. What had begun as a mistake was turning into something unforgettable. Ansley's final note soared through the silent hall, echoing long after her small voice had stopped. For a heartbeat, no one moved. Then, all at once, the room erupted. The crowd leapt to their feet, cheering, clapping, whistling, thunderous applause that shook the stage. Ansley's eyes widened, her little hands trembling as she held the microphone close to her chest. Howie stood, clapping above his head. Gabrielle's eyes glistened, whispering, "Beautiful." Julianne smiled with warmth, visibly touched. And then, the moment Ansley feared most, Simon's reaction. But instead of criticism, Simon was smiling. A genuine, proud smile. He leaned toward his mic and said, "That's what I was waiting for. You're brave. You didn't give up, and that makes you unforgettable." Ansley's lips quivered as tears finally spilled, but they weren't tears of defeat. They were tears of triumph. She bowed slightly, overwhelmed, her little heart bursting with pride. This wasn't just applause. It was the world telling her she was enough. Backstage, Ansley ran into her mother's arms, burying her face against her shoulder. "Mama," she whispered, her voice breaking with emotion, "I almost gave up out there." Her mother stroked her hair, her own eyes wet with tears. "But you didn't, sweetheart. You stood tall. And now the world has seen your strength." Ansley glanced back toward the stage, still hearing the echoes of the cheering crowd. In that moment, she realized something far greater than just a performance. It wasn't about perfection, or even winning, it was about courage. About standing back up when the world expected you to fall. Millions of people watching at home saw more than just an 11-year-old girl singing. They saw resilience, the kind of bravery that inspires hope in anyone who has ever doubted themselves. Ansley proved that a shaky beginning doesn't define the ending. Her story became a reminder for everyone: failure is not the opposite of success, it is part of the journey to it. And on that night, Ansley's light touched hearts everywhere.